your chat, or is it afternoon if you're an American? Here in Romania, it's 6 a.m., so it's still pretty early. But I really wanted to stream because I'm noticing a huge backlash. I would say that the last year has made significant changes in the way people think, and more importantly, the way people talk, because a lot of people were having the same thoughts on issues, but they were afraid to speak out because they would get canceled. And what they notice is that they're not alone. Because this is what a lot of people thought. It's like, oh, well, I have like these ideas and I'm holding these beliefs, but they're probably very fringe. If people find out what I'm thinking, I may get fired, I may get canceled. But it turns out that the ideas, they're not fringe. They're insanely popular. And people have noticed this with the last election. Right wingers are more numerous than they initially thought. And they also noticed this with a lot of brands now going broke. Concord is not the only one, but we had a year with Forspoken, Dustborn, Concord, Dragon Age, Veilguard, Star Wars Outlaws, like production after production of woke shit just ended up failing miserably. The exception is like when you have like a woke game that actually sells, they keep going Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate. It's like, yeah, that's the exception, isn't it? And Baldur's Gate isn't popular because it's woke. Like people who tell others about Baldur's Gate, they're not, hey, do you want to play a game which has chess cards in it? Body type A, body type B, vitiligo. You got your pronouns and shit. Like no one recommends the game like that. You know, it's like, oh, in this game you have like very masculine looking women. And it's not why Baldur's Gate was popular, right? It's not because Nexus Moss decides to ban Will being made into a white character. Uh, the Jaguar ad, yeah, like the Jaguar ad is now one where people are pointing it out. It's absolutely ridiculous. I made a video about it. I will not let you sleep, Amazon. I will force you to watch. The Baldur's Gate 3 made it optional. Yeah, but like again, it doesn't matter if it's optional or not. It's the fact that no one sees this as what's making the game great. Like no one is promoting Baldur's Gate because oh yeah, you got body type A, body type B characters in it, and you can make a woman with a penis. Like no one is recommending the game like that, right? Like that is there, and it's more like people put up with it rather than it's like a feature that makes the game great. I think seeing the online rights perk about Jaguar is just pure slop. No, it's more like again, like people are fed up and they're finally expressing what they're feeling, and it's actually good. Like people should. It creates community. It creates camaraderie. It makes you feel that you're not alone. You're not the only one that feels that that commercial is slop. And when you look at who made the commercial, like time and time again, you're right. It's not like oh they just didn't know what they're doing. It's just like a commercial that didn't hit. No. You look at the ideology of the person that greenlit the commercial, and every single stereotype that you can hold in your head turns out to be true. So no, people should point it out. It's a good thing. Oh yeah, you also have like Saints Row. You also have the Forspoken. And we're going to be talking about how to train your dragon today because I saw normies on TikTok. Like when you see liberal women saying, "Okay, enough with this shit," then maybe it's time to actually stop with the shit. It seems like those CEOs are doing it knowingly for drama clicks. Yeah, like there is a part in that. A lot of these companies they understand the world through consultants, and the consultants they understand the world through what they learned at the academia. And one of the mentality they used to have is that any type of publicity is good publicity, and if people talk about something, then it's a good thing, right? So, like Parrot Analytics, for instance, let's say that Dragon Age comes out, and everyone is talking about how shit it is. Like everyone is taking a dump on Dragon Age Velgard, and there's millions of people watching it on YouTube. There's everyone is shitting on it. They consider that a good thing because it's engagement. But obviously, the person that says that they're absolutely disgusted by the characters in Dragon Age, that's not a person that's going to buy the game. In fact, that is a person that's going to tell other people not to buy the game. So your engagement doesn't translate in sales, and the idea that like you need to make a product that pisses off the market is not a good sales tactic. And they're discovering this now. You know, it used to be like how to train your dragon is the perfect example of this, right? So let me see if I can find the now how to train your dragon when it first came out. When was it? Was it like 10, 15 years ago? Actually, hold on. I'm actually curious. When did How to Train Your Dragon came out? Couldn't be that long. Okay. So, according to this, 2010. Wow, really? 14 years ago. Holy shit. I'm old. Yeah, so it wasn't that long, but like 14 years ago, Hollywood actually knew how to make entertainment. And notice how it's not a live adaptation, it's not a sequel, it's not a prequel, it's not based on anything really. But you're looking at it and you're seeing, wow, dragons. Like, dragons are cool, right? So, How to Train Your Dragon. Well, it's a story about dragons and people trying to tame them. And you look at the trailer and it's got a couple of really comedic elements to it. Like, it's super funny. Is the type of movie that you would enjoy taking your kids to, or is the type of movie that you would enjoy watching as a kid? And the thing that sold was the jokes, the setting, the immersion. Like everything was working together. You got the main character that's a wimp, and he falls in love with a beautiful girl. Like, that was presented in the trailer. And he didn't know how to impress her, but he's using ingenuity. And that's like not representation, that's relatability. Like, you can be a Chinese guy, you can be a black man, you can be any type of nationality, and you're seeing a guy struggling to impress a woman. Like, that talks to the human spirit. That bypasses race, that bypasses gender. It's like, okay, well, this is a love story. And it's got like these fantastical elements with dragons, and it's got humor and jokes in it. Like, this is a good movie, right? Like, this, the magic of the movie, the wholesomeness, was what was selling it. Now, what's selling modern movies is that, okay, let's make a live adaptation of this. So, like, there's no originality. I already know the story. I already know the plot. The writers don't have to work that much. Like, they already have the skeleton that they can change, right? So you can hire incompetent writers. You can hire some of the most talentless hacks in the industry to write your story, because like they don't need to create a universe, they don't need to create an IP. They already have the story, so like they're expecting to capture me because I like the original, so now I guess I'm going to go watch the live action. How about you fuck off? I'm keeping my money. I'm keeping my money. I'm not giving you shit. And then they do a race swap so that they can have the controversy and have people talk about it, and they call it a day. And that's how magic is done now. It's, as Sargon put it, is the cargo cult. You know, the cargo cult was represented by primitive people that never saw an airplane before, and they saw the United Forces landing on their island and bringing all sorts of packages and goods. And when the United States Air Force left, like, they knew planes can fly, they know it's possible to make planes, so they would try to recreate the image of the plane, but they never got the planes to take off. And this is pretty much what's happening here, you know? Like, Hollywood, like, knows there's magic. They know like you can create a movie, or you can create an animation that people will pay money for, but they just don't know how anymore. So, like, they're trying to recreate. They're like the cargo cults. They're trying to recreate these live adaptations that are trying to imitate stuff from the past, but there's no more magic. They just don't take off. So they're trying, like, all of their leftist superstition, their leftist voodoo. It's like, oh, voodoo, and it changes the race color of a character. Ooh, change color, change race, change identity politics. Woogie, 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 woogie. And then people still don't see it. Leftist voodoo. I think this is how you need to call race swapping. Leftist voodoo. When you take a character that's white and through leftist voodoo, you're using the magic of identity politics in order to make the character black. Yes, I did hear about Sony Japan and Sony America. Yeah, it's hilarious. So the cope, and this is what I love the most, right? They're saying that they couldn't find a more talented actress. This is the cope that I keep hearing. Like, it's funny how it's never a white person, like it's never a black person that's replaced by a white person, and they will say, well, we never found a talented actor. Like seriously, can you imagine just how ass hurt people would be if you take a black character, like let's think, okay, Princess and the Frog, right? Classic Disney movie. And they would cast a white actor to play the black princess. So just so you can understand how insulting this is. And by the way, Princess of the Frog, really great Disney film. I absolutely loved it. But, okay, imagine if they are to make a live adaptation of Princess and the Frog, and they're casting a white female actress. And they say, well, we couldn't find a black female actress that we could like. Like, there was literally no one bad. We had to cast the best person for the job. So, like, we couldn't find a black actress that can play the role. How would people feel? How would the Democrats feel, right? Like, how would Joe Biden feel? And the way Joe Biden would feel, well, maybe not him because he's a little bit old. Nancy Pelosi, right? AOC. The way AOC would feel about this is how you should feel about this. Exactly, 100%. Like, imagine AOC in your mind, seeing that the Hollywood producer just told her, just informed her, oh, no, even better. Maxine Waters, my favorite Democrat. Maxine Waters. Like, her facial expression, right? I want you to imagine her facial expression when she hears that Hollywood could not find a talented enough actress to play this character, so they casted a white woman instead, right? Imagine her face. That's what your face should be like. Imagine her actions, like exactly how she's feeling, that's how you should feel. Like, you should be more like the Democrats. You should copy them, emulate them, want to be like them, because we've been constantly told that they're decent people, right? So we gotta be decent people as well. It would be a little bit insulting, though, wouldn't it? It's like, really. So, like, in the entire United States of America, you were incapable of finding a good enough actress to play the role. Like, no one was there. No one that could fit the role of Astro. Okay. Interesting how you managed to find a casting director. Maybe you should fire them, hire someone else, right? So, like, in the case of Astrid, like, what is the controversy, right? Like, they casted, Astrid, and a lot of people were saying, well, they're Vikings, like, Vikings were in black, and they casted this actress instead. But it's not about this, right? It's not like, if this was a one-off, no one would care. But it's in every single production at this point. It's not even the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, the camel's back has been broken 17 movies ago. Like, people are just sick and tired of this shit because it's not about the movie. Like first of all, you're incapable of making an original production. That's what pisses people off the most. Because if you made an original film, no one would have questioned the casting choice, right? And the second thing is the malice behind it. We genuinely think you're racist. Like, unironically, if you could look into our heads, we would unironically think that you're racist. We would think that you think white people are problematic. That's what we think. And you also, which is fine, you know, like, we're not butthurt about it, but, like, you want our money. Why would we give money to people that hate us? Because this is, at the end of the day, what this is about, you know? It's not about, like, we can't enjoy a movie where black people are in it. Again, Princess and the Frog, really good movie. I recommend it. I didn't have a problem watching it. In fact, a lot of people prefer Japanese production now, or South Korean production. There's no white people in them. You know, The Platform came on Netflix. Really good TV show. Kingdom, Sweet Home. Like, there's many productions. It's not about the race. I generally don't care about it. It's about the malice behind. Like, why would you do it? And the cope is, well, we couldn't find anyone to play the role. Like, this was the best actress, right? So really, in a country of 350 million people, you couldn't find anyone. You couldn't find anyone to play Astrid. You couldn't find a single actress in entire Hollywood that could fit the role of Astrid. Like, no one was talented enough. Really? Not a single person. No one that you know. Okay. I see. Interesting. Froggy, I want to see a race swap version of Tarzan. No, I want to see Will Smith play Anne Frank. I love when I give this example because people freak out on Twitter. It's like, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, no fucking shit it is. And it's also disrespectful, isn't it? But why can't Will Smith play Anne Frank? Like, Will Smith is an amazing actor. I'm pretty sure he can pull it off. Yeah, I think Will Smith can play a very convincing, very, you know, an Anne Frank that's capable of driving emotion and making people in the audience experience various feelings. Like, yeah, well, why can't Will Smith play Anne Frank? Like, give me the answer. Because we don't care about looking the part, right? We don't care about any of that. And at the end of the day, like, what does it matter? Like, what if Will Smith identifies as a woman for the purpose of the movie? What, is it the size? Oh, well, it's fine. You know, in Lord of the Rings, if you can make grown men look like hobbits, I'm pretty sure you can make Will Smith look smaller. Like, that's fine. Yeah, what's the issue? Oh, is he too old? I mean, you are casting Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, so, like, what if he looks a little bit older? Why are you an ageist? No, Will Smith as Anne Frank. Like, seriously, if I see Will Smith as Anne Frank, I'll shut the fuck up. I'll be like, you know what? Maybe these people aren't racist. Maybe they genuinely want to cast the best person for the job. For diapers, and L Somali take ratio. Yeah, a lot of people dislike my takes on Johnny Somali because I don't think you should go to prison for 30 years and you should go to prison for 5. I feel like Saul Goodman. Talking to, not to Lalo, wow, to Tuco. Yeah, I feel like Saul Goodman talking to Tuco. And it's like, Tuco, you know, like 30 years is a little bit too much. How about 5 years and a leg? How about 5 years and a leg, right? Yeah, is that fair? Anne Frank is a woman, V. Like, so what? Do you think they can define what a woman is? No, Anne Frank is a body type A. And why can't Will Smith be body type A? Because they're interchangeable. Like, Will Smith can identify as a woman. Are you trying... now you're racist and transphobic. It's not even reduction ad absurdum. Like, that's the thing. Like, there is nothing in their ideology that could justify why Will Smith shouldn't play Anne Frank. Because, no, seriously, like, think about it. They believe that a woman is any person that identifies as a woman. That's it, period. Like, you don't need any objective fact, right? Like, you don't need to prove that you're suffering from gender dysphoria. You don't need to prove that... in fact, like, there are so many genders that Will Smith can just have a gender where he switches the role when he's an actor, right? So, like, he becomes a woman when he enters the studio. It's called gender fluid. I mean, it's literally within the left-leaning ideology that justifies why Will Smith should play Anne Frank. Yeah, in our ideology is absurd. But in their ideology, there is nothing to justify why Will Smith shouldn't be able to play Anne Frank. Like, he's a good actor, right? He's a very famous person. He's going to get butts in seats. Like, I guarantee to you, if Will Smith plays Anne Frank, people will go see it. And yeah, I mean, why not? You don't need to look the part. And by the way, why do you have to cast a woman in the role of a woman? Why can't a man play a woman? Or why can't a woman play a man? Yeah, The Rock has Martin Luther King. The thing is, like, The Rock would actually pull a Martin Luther King. That's not a good example. Yeah, Terry Lewis for Anne Frank. That would actually fit. Arnold Schwarzenegger for Anne Frank. How about that? I mean, he's a politician. He understands the history, the right. If they are willing to accept Ariel as a black woman in a supposedly Nordic story, why wouldn't Will Smith? Yeah, pretty much. That they have no argument. They will just dismiss it. They will refuse to engage with the argument. But the reality is, like, if you sit down a leftist and you're asking, like, okay, from the left-leaning ideological perspective, explain to me why Will Smith shouldn't be able to play Anne Frank. And they may say something like, well, yeah, but like this is a historical movie. And I would be like, and? The BBC has made many historical adaptations where they casted a black lady as the Queen of England. Like, and it was the best actress for the job, right? So, like, why would that not be the case? Lizzo for Adolf? Yeah, like Lizzo for Adolf Hitler. That's actually a good point. Why can't Lizzo play Adolf Hitler? Do you know that Lizzo does fat shaming? Like, I actually read that in an art. I think it was The Guardian. She was fat shaming her backup dancers, and I was like, Lizzo, no, Lizzo, no. Lizzo, why, Lizzo? Why are you fat shaming? Come on, Lizzo. No. Is it like the N word? Like, if you're black, you can use it. And in the case of Lizzo, like, she can fat shame because. Is that how it works? Like, if you're a woman, you can make jokes about other women. If you're a Jew, you can make joke about other Jewish people. So if you're Lizzo, you can fat shame. Am I following the logic correctly? You know what I want to see? I want to see Gorlock the Destroyer versus Lizzo epic rap battle. To be fair, Lizzo, she's now working out and losing weight. I can't shame that. If she does that, she can actually get the right to fat shame people. Like, if you're a morbidly obese person and you lose weight and you put the effort, you should be able to fat shame other people. I lost weight just to fat shame. Goodness, though, I would never say that Lizzo is fat. She's just big bone. Let's see. What do we got today? Should I look at Asmongold? I mean, we did Asmongold yesterday. Has he even said anything? He's talking about what we're talking about. Right, let's look at the vibe shift. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't like it when he streams by showing his room. Without having, like, darkness behind him to cover the background. Because, Asbun, hire a cleaning lady, for fuck's sakes. Do you know what I think? I think he's a pack rat. You know, there are people that just can't throw away shit. Like, literally, they just don't want to... Like, they have something which they don't need anymore, but they still keep it around. Like, my dad was like that. And I just don't like that mentality. It's like, if you don't use it, throw it away. Or give it to someone. But don't pack your room with all the stuff. I just noticed that Asmongold has an American flag, though. Is he allowed on Twitch with this hate symbol, chat? Like, can you have this hate symbol on Twitch?
Hi guys, today I wanted to talk to you all about what I believe to be probably the biggest cultural shift that we have ever seen if you're anywhere around my age, except for maybe September 11th. I think that this cultural shift has been observed now for about 2 to 3 years, and when it really was codified as like, yeah, this is happening, it's when Trump won the US election. And now in the aftermath of that, I think that you can very clearly see people are emboldened by that, they're galvanized by it, and people are much more willing to share their viewpoints on things that have been much more conservative, much more traditional than what I think a lot of people would, expect or maybe have you believe. And so I wanted to talk today about why that actually happened, why I think it happened, and where the culture is going to be going from this perspective, right? From this direction. And so anyway, the first thing you have to do in order to explain where it's going to go is to explain where it came from. So the reason why I think a lot of this happened, and we've had a shift, and before I do that, I'll also explain where I think this shift is coming from. I think that we are shifting away from a more censorship heavy, a more, censored speech heavy, compelled speech heavy. And I think that you're seeing a lot of backlash against, what were considered to be like, protected types of thinking and protected groups of people. You're seeing a tremendous amount of backlash against.
You can say retard now. I saw Asmongold say retard. So I think like that's, retard was the last word that was taken away from us. Like they went through all the slurs and retard was the last one. So it's only fitting that retard is the word that's being brought up back into the lexicon.
Instead, I think this is mainly evidenced on Twitter, but you can see this in YouTube comments. You can see this in comment sections of any.
There's one reason for this. I think there was this organization that unionized advertisers. I forgot the name of it. I think it was GLAD or some shit like that. But basically, like, they got all the major advertisers, all the major brands, like Disney, Target, most of the leftist companies, to bully social media companies. So they had the power to actually tell Twitter, it's like, this is the terms of service that we want. And if you guys don't do that, we're not going to advertise on your platform. So you had like all these bizarre terms of service that you still have on YouTube today, where, for instance, naked yoga is allowed, twerk dancing is allowed, but if you have like anime girls groping each other, that's not allowed. Like stuff like that doesn't necessarily make sense. And most of the reason for that is the advertisers. Like they came in and they said, yeah, like we don't want this type of content on your platform. And recently what happened is that Elon Musk is suing them, and I think like GLAD actually ended up disbanding. So now like a lot of the censorship that was there is being removed. And this is probably why you can say retard again.
Game or like any video. I think that in general you're just seeing a massive backlash against what people believe to be authoritarian levels of compelled thought and compelled speech. And big surprise, where did compelled thought and compelled speech come from? Where is the genesis of that recently? Definitely from COVID.
It was way before COVID. Like with COVID, you weren't necessarily compelled to say stuff. You couldn't deny the holy election. You couldn't say anything about the vaccines. But you weren't like compelled to say stuff. Compelled is like, I think like transgender pronouns. Like if someone has they, them, like you're compelled. Like you have to say it. If someone, today is he, him, and tomorrow is she, her, and then the day after they're back to he, him. Like you have to respect all of that. And you have to say that is actually compelled. Like if most other censorship just bans you from talking about specific issues, the pronoun thing is like it's forcing you to talk about them. But the censorship, yeah, like the censorship existed. I think it started in 2016, right? Because up until that point, the internet did have certain censorious tendencies. But it's only in 2016 that they become more evident. And at first it was, don't use slurs, right? Because up until 2016, a lot of gamers used a lot of slurs. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, don't use slurs. And then it moved like, Don't harass people, right? So don't go to a woman and call her various disparaging things. Don't dox, right? Like it started with stuff that was kind of reasonable. Like not a lot of people could deny that it's a good thing to that it's not a good thing to have like some civility, right? But then it kept expanding, and it got to the point where you couldn't talk about a rape case. So like let's say someone got raped, right? Or there was like a Me Too rape accusation or anything like that. And you wanted to make a video and talk about it the same way that CNN talks about it or the same way that MSNBC talks about it. But if you did it on YouTube, you'd get demonetized. So it got to the point where people had to make euphemisms to discuss just like the most common political things that the news would talk about. So like people like the Quartering had to use grape. Like you guys noticed that, right? Like on a lot of the social media, there would be like a Me Too accusation like Matt Gaetz, right? So Matt Gaetz is being accused of grape or whatever. You know, like they wouldn't say the actual word because there was censorship. Like there were algorithmic suppression if you actually said the word. Yeah, pretty much Ghost 101. And that's pretty much that's where you know that it's starting to get bad. And once they banned Alex Jones from all the platforms, they intensified the censorship to the point where if in the beginning you couldn't talk about words, now you can't even talk about political concepts. Like now you can't even debate an election in a free society, right? Like you can't say, yeah, I don't believe the government. I think that the election was stolen. Which the claim in and of itself, like it doesn't matter if it's true. Like if the person actually believes that, they should be able to express it. But the censorship was at such a high level that you weren't able to articulate that. The censorship got to the point where if you disagreed with government COVID policy, you are anti-science, and if you're anti-science, you need to be banned. Like again, it wasn't even scientific. Like if the government wants to shut down your business and you make a post saying that no, actually the businesses should stay open, they would call you an anti-scientist, a science denier. Sorry, it's like how the fuck am I science denying if I'm disagreeing with the politicians? And it was to such a ridiculous point that you would go outside and you'd have a conversation with your neighbor, with your hairstylist, with your waiter, and you'd talk about COVID, and you'd realize that everything you spoke, and like again, different people, right? Like from all walks of life, like, but everything you spoke with them, if you placed it online, you would get banned. Yeah, the Bake the Cake bigot, that actually was such a non-controversy. Like, no one outside leftist circles believed it. And even the ones in leftist circles that did believe it, they didn't understand what was going on. So the Bake the Cake thing, it had a couple of gay activists that went to different bakeries wanting a cake to be baked and the writer to write something on the cake. And I think they went to like 4 or 5 Christian bakeries. They didn't go to a single Muslim bakery. And they went to all these Christian bakeries, and eventually they found one that wouldn't bake it. So they decided to sue, and they lost the lawsuit. Now, the difference is that leftists that were outraged by this, they didn't know the whole context. They didn't know that these people were activists. They generally thought that these are two individuals that just happen to love each other and want a cake, and no one wants to bake it to them because everyone is a bigot. And they had the impression that they just walked into a bakery and they wanted to buy something and no one would serve them. When in reality, it's like, look, if you go to a leftist bakery, like you go in Scat Francisco or Portland, and you go into a bakery and you want the baker to have like a MAGA American flag on your cake while you're shooting guns at Democrats. Right, like that's your wedding cake. Like this is what you want. If he says no, he's not discriminating against you. Like you cannot compel a human being to create something that they politically disagree with. Now, if they already created that, If they already made that cake and it's in the window for display, that's a different thing. They already created it, so they have to sell it to you. But you cannot force someone, you cannot force an artist to write a song that they disagree with, because that's slavery and it's abolished. So, like, yeah, you can't go to a Christian and ask him to make you a cake with a Jesus and a dildo on his forehead, and if they say no, it's because they're bigots. Yeah, back when I used to watch the Quarterly Guides, these struggle snuggle a lot. Yeah, because again, like well, the problem, like, why was the censorship there to begin with, right? Like, why was it that the establishment didn't want people to talk about stories involving rape? Like, why is it okay for the mainstream media to do it, but it's not okay for the Quartering to do it? And the answer for it is that there were a lot of cases in Europe where they didn't like who's perpetuating it, right? So, like, they didn't want that to be covered. And it was also the Me Too thing. The Me Too actually got a lot of people into trouble. It didn't get a lot of right-wingers into trouble. Like, the Me Too this time didn't hit in the Catholic Church. It didn't hit in the GOP. The Me Too actually hit with journalists, Twitch moderators, Reddit moderators, left-leaning people in the academia. And that's when they switched from feminism to trans issues. Because I was laughing my ass off, and I was actually saying, okay, if they keep hitting in Hollywood, if they keep hitting in the mainstream media, and if they keep hitting in these places where, like, a lot of left-leaning people that are driving the culture are at, you're going to immediately see everyone pivoting away from feminism. Now I couldn't predict that they're going to pivot to transgender rights, but that's where it went, right? So this is when J.K. Rowling got off the train. And I wonder if, like, they didn't do that in order to spite people like J.K. Rowling. But it's also like, if you're for trans rights, like, you're not going to create problems with Twitch moderators. You're not going to create troubles with people in Hollywood. Like, no one cares, right? But if you're, like, for women's rights and you're, you know, like, a culture where you have Me Too, well, there's a lot of Hollywood producers that are sweating bullets. There's a lot of people in the establishment, politicians, people that are working at Twitch and other social media companies that are very uncomfortable about the conversation. Yeah, like, most of the people accused were male feminists. In a way, I kind of know why. There's many reasons why that happened. So first of all, the definition of rape was watered down. Like, it's not the definition of rape that my mom would think when she hears the accusation. Now it was, like, anything that's, like, even improper soliciting, right? So, or disrespectful messages. Like, all of these would be now classified as sexual abuse. So, like, if this was something that, what's his name? Angry Joe was accused of. He basically talked to a woman online, and she seduced him. Like, she was the one that was hitting on him. And they went out, and he introduced her to a lot of his friends and connections and networking, because she was a Twitch streamer as well. And then he invites her to his hotel. She goes, and before entering the room with him, before entering his hotel room, she says that, well, I have a boyfriend. And at which point, Angry Joe kicks her out. And that's now a Me Too accusation. That is like, well, look what Angry Joe is doing. He's not respecting women. I felt so used. Why should he only care about me if I'm available? Why doesn't he like me as a person? Yada, yada, yada. And now, like, there's people trying to cancel Angry Joe. And it's like, okay, so you watered down the definition of rape. Like, that's not rape. Nothing that Angry Joe did is illegal. Nothing that Angry Joe did is immoral. In fact, I would say you're the immoral one for trying to lead him knowing exactly what you're doing, because you're not an imbecile. Like, you're not a child. You're a grown-ass woman, and you knew exactly what you were getting yourself into and what you were trying to do. So in that situation, she was 100% the perpetrator, right? So, like, this was the mentality of a lot of content creators at the time, because you come up with the accusation, it gives you the spotlight, it gives you subscribers, it gives you views. So they watered down the definition. The people doing it were mentally unhinged. And finally, it was also the financial incentive to do it, right? So if you're a male feminist and you're surrounding yourself with people that are mentally unhinged, and the definition is so loose, yeah, eventually you're going to get accused. You know, like most right wingers that I know, the first thing they did is like, okay, well, we need to segregate ourselves from people that are mentally ill. And luckily, there was a signifier, just like in El Salvador, where you have the gang members with tattoos. The mentally unwell people would dye their hair with very vibrant, rich colors, or they would shave their head. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to go next to this person because they're dangerous. So by refusing to interact with these people, a lot of right-wingers managed to keep themselves safe. Meanwhile, leftists were attracted to these people. It's like, well, they would get in trouble. What will take over transgender as the most oppressed subgroup once the left get bored with the men in the woman face? I generally don't know, because these things happen naturally. I see a lot of freak out over anime, so maybe like that will become the next thing, you know, like accusations of pedophilia, which, like right now, I keep going online and it's like, oh, this guy has been accused. And you're like, holy shit, like this guy, this is a content creator that I've been watching for so long. Like, oh my god, what the fuck? And then you find out that he likes anime. I think it was Grooms. Yeah, like Grooms was the accusation. It's like, oh, Grooms is promoting, and it's like, what the fuck is he doing? Holy shit. And then you're looking at, oh, he retweeted some anime pictures. Does he do it a lot? No, he did it once. Okay. Right. And we're at that level. You know? I guess it will last for a couple of years. I don't know. I just hope that we're not going to get like a Western council to sanitize anime. Like that's my hopes. Because this is being pushed by Vice. Like Vice magazine is the ones that opened the floodgates to this. And Disney is also invested. And there's like other corporations that are interested into making sure that anime is funneled through the West with small councils that act for censorship. And the censorship is not about what Grooms was tweeting. No, the censorship is about, adhering to Western standards. Like, it's going to be like, how many black characters do you have? Like basically like Disneyfying anime. If you look at the video games, it's already happening with Capcom. It's already happening with Square Enix. Like, that's what Disney wants to do, because they can't compete with anime. Like, their stuff keeps flopping. They're looking at this shit. Yeah, it's pretty much what the localizers are doing, right? Now, they tried saying that anime is racist and it didn't work. They tried saying that anime is sexist and it didn't work. And now it's going to be this, right? Like, this is going to be the next Mortal Panic, which, again, Vice has started. And it's not like, it's not going after adult, because that's the thing. Like, I don't care about the adult aspect. I care about the mainstream anime aspect. And the mainstream anime seems to, like, constantly be more and more monopolized. Like, it's being concentrated into the hands of a few companies, and then they have to be funneled through the localizers into the West. And they need a moral panic to justify the censorship. And the censorship, again, it's not going to be well, obviously they will remove every fan service. Like, that's one thing. But they will also censor based on, how you're treating racial characters. Like, what is the representation and blah, 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 blah. So if anime gets sanitized, well, I guess I'm going to have to start watching Korean shows. Chinese shows and Korean shows. And it's like, well, it's fine, you know. It is what it is. Yeah, the racial mandates, pretty much. So I think like that's what's going to be the next Mortal Panic, because now you have a right-wing culture, and it's going to be watered down the same way like the word racist is watered down, right? Like, you got a joke, oh, you're a racist. You got a TV show that has like a character that's not represented correctly, that's racist. every 3 years there's like something different, right? So like let's see, we had it started with Islam, right? With 9/11 was like you're not allowed to make jokes, you're not allowed to be disparaging towards Muslims. Then it moved to black people. Then it moved to Jews. Then it moved to women with feminism. Then it's like trans people. So like there's like a different flavor. Like the wokeness is there, the identity politics is there. It's just like there's always a new flavor. Used to be the satanic panic. Used to be violence. It's just like a new theme every 3 or 4 years or so. Like there's a new theme in town that everyone is mortal panicking over it, and everyone is like, oh well, what type of fiction do you consume? Does your fiction have violence in it? Oh, you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. You're watching Harry Potter. That has magic. That's satanic. Anime is racist, is sexist. That is a good thing. Yeah, the Guardian should write an article like that. It's not even that they're trying to destroy it. They're trying to grift off of it. Like they want to make money off of it, right? Like that's the problem. Like anime is making money and the consultants aren't. So that's their issue. And it's like, how do they make money? Well, they need to justify why consultants need to be hired. Like look at Sweet Baby. And imagine if we're in 2010, like who would hire, who in their right mind would hire a company like Sweet Baby? Fucking no one. No one would hire Sweet Baby. There's no reason to. So how did Sweet Baby manage to get hired? Well, Elon Musk actually, sorry, not Elon Musk, Grooms. Grooms made an article, made an expose showing how the people in charge of Dungeons and Dragons now, they think that the original developers of Dungeons and Dragons were racist, promoting slavery, all that shit. So like a lot of slander, right? So by slandering the original creators, they created the illusion that the public really hates Dungeons and Dragons because it's problematic. So like if you fix the problematic issues from Dungeons and Dragons, then you're going to get people to buy it more. So in order to fix the problematic issue, you hire the consultants. And once you hire the consultants, you pay them cash. And that is why they're grifting. It's not just to change the culture, but it's also so that they can make money. I used to be into Harry Potter stuff. Everyone was into the Harry Potter stuff. And I do remember, like, it was... at that point, I was an adult, so I didn't give a fuck. But people were concerned about the magic in Harry Potter. And they were like, oh, it's satanic. It teaches kids that you can cast spells. And it was like the same shit, right? Like, you had Christians that actually believed that demons are real. Because the Bible says that demons are real, right? And the Bible does tell you that witchcraft is wrong, so it means that witchcraft needs to be real too. And there were like these skits, this chick flicks, I think they were called, where someone was playing Dungeons and Dragons, and like the game itself, like this is what the Christians would say, right? The game itself wasn't teaching you how to cast spells or summon demons, but it would normalize the thinking that being a warlock is cool, that being a magician is awesome, which goes against the Bible teachings. So their logic was that if you actually encounter a satanic sect in real life, if you actually encounter the demonic in real life, you're more likely to accept it because the video game managed to get you an open mind to it. Like that was their argument, right? Like that, because I actually was curious. I read some newspapers from the old days, and it's like, how did people actually look at the satanic panic? So let me, hold on. Dungeons and Dragons satanic. Like, what was their argument, right? Because it sounds batshit insane. It's like, well... So this is actually from the United States a couple of decades ago, right? So as you can see, a deadly game, fantasy, real tragedies. Like, they connected the video game Dungeons and Dragons to murder and death. And they even had a movie that was greenlit. And it actually shows that people started playing Dungeons and Dragons and ended up being killers. And I was like, how do you make the connection, right? Because it sounds batshit insane. What was their argument? Because as you can see here, it's like, actual adults that are pushing for this. And their argument was, as I mentioned, it's like, okay, and tell me if the argument is familiar or not. If you actually can relate to the argument. If you heard it used anywhere else, but in different contexts, right? So when you play Dungeons and Dragons, even if it's like a good campaign, because like the people who are criticizing, they understood the game. It's not like, oh well, I just don't know what's going on. No. Like they actually tried understanding the game. So they were basically saying, like, even if you play a good campaign, like let's say you're playing a campaign where some adventurers are saving the kingdom from dark forces. A part of the possibility is that you can play a class that can do magic, right? So you can play as a wizard, you can play as a sorcerer, you can play as a druid. And by doing this, even if your character is good-natured, you're normalizing the concept that magic is beneficial, that magic is good, that magic is fun. Like you're teaching kids, you're teaching young adults that creating spells and conjuring stuff is good. And they believed that because the Bible is real, there are sects out there. Like there are satanic sects, which, you know, like I'm pretty sure there actually were. Like in the entire United States of America, like maybe there were actual satanic sects. Could have been like real satanic sects, or just, you know, like take into account that they believe a group of people that listen to goth are satanic. Like they would actually think that, you know, like if you have a group of unconforming kids at school that are listening to goth metal, that's a satanic sect. Because they're social outcasts, they don't want to integrate, their lives aren't going to be, you know, they're doing drugs. So like the criticism wasn't like completely off the bat. I mean, they weren't satanic, right? But like they weren't, like most parents, what they wanted from their kids was to be integrated in the community, right? Go to Sunday church, be normal. Like this is what parents wanted from their kids, to be normal. They didn't want their kids to be at the outskirts of society in a graveyard listening to goth music and smoking pot, right? Like that's not what parents wanted from their kids. What parents wanted from their kids is that they get good grades and they go to MIT. And then they get a stable job, they marry, and they have 7 or 8 other kids, right? Like that's what parents wanted. So they viewed as this is a distraction from their dream of the kid going to MIT. They viewed it's like, okay, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. They're thinking that magic spells and all this shit is cool. So when they actually meet troublemakers, like a satanic group, they are more open-minded to that. They're less likely to resist because like they think magic is cool. It's like, oh, so you guys can do magic like in my video game? Like can I practice it with you? Can I try it with you? So that was why they were concerned about this game. And again, like this is the same argument that was used for violent video games. Like violent video games was like this. You're playing a video game like Doom, or you're playing GTA, right? So like you're playing GTA. Like what do you do in GTA? Well, you play the role of a person that commits crime and kills police officers and is breaking the law. Like that is the purpose of the game. It's a degenerate game, right? So when you're doing that, even though it's fiction, it normalizes the behavior. Like you start thinking that doing crime is cool. You start thinking that, oh, like robbing cars is actually fun. So when you encounter an actual criminal in real life and it's like, hey, let's go rob a car, you're already thinking, wow, that's fun. That's like in my video game. So that was their argument, right? And it's the same fucking argument. Every 3 or 4 years, you're going to have the same fucking argument. It's like, oh, if you play racist games, you're going to become a racist. If you play sexist games, you're going to become a sexist. If you play games with Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to become a, right? It's literally the same story over and over and over, and it's fucking cyclical. And the funny thing about it is that when you look back at the previous moral panics, everyone gives it the middle finger. It's like people looking now, it's like, well, of course there was no satanic panic. Like, that's so fucking ridiculous. How can you say it's like of course video games don't cause violence? That is so fucking ridiculous. Who would even say something like that? Of course sexist games don't cause sexism. But like the current moral panic, the one we live in, absolutely true. 100%. Like the moral panic that we have now, 100% correct. How can you not see it this way? Maybe you're supporting the other side. And by the way, like most of this shit is American culture. Like we don't have this in Europe. Yeah, the biggest difference in the 80s is that the critics were laughed out of the room. Yes and no. Dungeons and Dragons did buckle. I think they actually removed demons from their game for a while. The ESRB was created. A lot of people, when they think of the ESRB, they think it's a good thing. And unironically, I thought it's a good thing as well, because it's like, well, I mean, yeah, parents should know that this is not a game or a movie made for kids. Like, that's a great thing. But then when you look at the ESRB, you realize that it's now co-opted by woke people who, they're more willing to give a pass to a video game like The Last of Us, which has the Abby sex scene, but they're not going to give a pass to a visual novel that like has Eve from Stellar Blade or some shit like that, right? So like they're very woke oriented. Um, and I think the ESRB has lost the purpose that it was made for. I think it's a good idea for like someone to be able to rate video games and rank them so that parents know. It's like, yeah, this is definitely not for little Billy. But at the same time, I wish that the people who make the ratings, they're not ideologically possessed. Never let kids infiltrate your hobby or the government. Theater kids, yeah. I think that's the problem, right? Like, because back in the day, like, hobbies were niche, and you had to go out of your way to find, like, if you like goth music, you had to go out of your way to find goth music, right? Like, it was something niche. It was something that was sold in most places. Like, you had to go to the store that you knew in your town that would stock up on like, the latest albums and stuff. And now it's everything is online. Everyone gets to see it. With COVID, it's worse. So like every single hobby gets infiltrated. Everything that you do is not niche anymore. Of course, staring at a screen all day and not actually talking to people will make you socially abnormal. Um, Before staring at the screen, people had earphones all day. Like the people that listen to music, they would have Walkmans and they would just constantly listen to music. Um, there are certain people that withdraw from society. Like it's not the screen that causes the person to withdraw from society. It's like underlying issues. Like most of the people that were listening to goth, they had problems in their families. Either the parents were helicopter parenting, so like it wasn't that they had divorces in their family or anything like that, or domestic abuse. It's just that the parents were extremely controlling, overbearing. Others actually did have divorces or domestic abuse and shit, and the music was a way for them to cope. Like they were seeking escapism from reality. And then when you're in high school, you realize that bullying is a thing. So, like, if you're the weird kid, if you have a little bit of autism, if you're a little bit off, if you're not strong enough, it's kind of like prison. Like, they're going to pick on you, they're going to bully you all the way up until 10th grade. So, like, if you go to school and you get bullied constantly, then yeah, obviously, like, that kid is going to try to find escapism. Um, it's not, and the bullying doesn't even have to be physical because it's like, they have like, oh, no tolerance for bullying. Okay, great, awesome. It doesn't have to be physical. Like maybe the other kids just don't want to play with you, and if the other kids don't want to play with the weirdo, then there's nothing the teachers can do. Like the teachers can't bully the other kids and force them to play with the weirdo. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what the solution for this is. I think it's just like natural human behavior. Like in every single group, there's going to be outcasts. There's no group where everyone is integrated. Unless it's like a very small group. It's like a group of 5 or 6 people. But like if you look at reality shows and you look at Survivor or you look at, very other places where people are placed in a house and they have to live together, there's always, every single time, like the group excludes certain individuals, and the individuals that are excluded, they become social outcasts. It's just like normal human behavior. It's just like the way it works. I used to go to 2-4 metal punk hip hop shows a week, and drama weirdos got bullied out, like in any other social situation. Yeah, but the thing is, like, see, they realize that in order to create drama, like, they don't actually create the drama about the music now. It's like, the moral panic is like, oh, it's racism, sexism, misogyny, and if you bully them, you're actually against women or stuff like that. Um, Homeschooling is the solution for some. or changing the way schools are. I don't think you can change the way schools are and actually get anything out of it. Because as I mentioned before, like if you're watching Survivor, like what is Survivor? You take a couple of people, you put them on an island, and they have to survive, right? And in every single season, there's always people that are marginalized and people that are outcasted in every single group. So I have to conclude it's human nature. And these are adults, like they're not kids. And it's anything. Like I think it's also due to how people establish hierarchy. Like in order for some people to be at the top, some others have to be at the bottom. So the ones at the top, they want to show that they deserve to be at the top, so they compare themselves with the people at the bottom, and that is the bully. Teach your kids to fight. I don't know if that's always the solution. I mean, sure, it can help with physical bullying, but again, like if your kid is weird and no one wants to hang around with him, that is a form of bullying, but it's not something that he can do to avoid, you know? So it's a complex issue because, like, social interactions, like human social interaction, is complex. So it really depends, you know, like why is your kid being ostracized? Is he a snitch? Like maybe he was snitching on other kids. Like that's also like one of the reasons you can get bullied. Maybe he is a smug know-it-all, right? Like sometimes the person getting bullied can avoid it by changing their behavior. Like this is something that modern psychology goes. It's like never blame the victim, and it's like, well, of course, but like maybe the victim cannot be a victim by doing certain things that, like for instance, snitching, right? Like if you snitch and you get bullied, like no one is saying that you should get bullied, but it's kind of like a storm. Like if it will happen, right? Like it's a lot easier to change your behavior than to change the behavior of 12 other people. So like, yeah, don't snitch to the professor, right? Like if you see someone doing something, like let's say they copied their homework, it's none of your fucking business if they copied their homework. Why would you have to go to the teacher and tell them, like, oh, little Billy copied his homework? And then when you get bullied, like, whose fault is it? Oh, don't victim blame. Right, sure. Am I not making sense, though? Because, like, I'm trying to reflect the situation that happened in my school. And I'm trying to think, like, who were the kids that were getting ostracized? And usually, like, 9 out of 10 times was for snitching. Like they would be like, oh yeah, little Billy I saw him copy his homework. You know what? Now I get it, you know, because if you do your homework and you put the work, it pisses you off when someone else doesn't. I get that. But, you know, it is what it is. Like, what can you do? Yeah, caring too much about fitting. Like it's a very complex human interaction that and there's different layers of bullying, obviously, you know, like being weird and snitching is treated differently. Sometimes like picking on kids smaller than you can also get you bullied in high school. Like if you pick on other kids and you do it consistently, like eventually someone else is going to get fed up with your shit. There's a time to snitch. Yeah, no, there is a time to snitch, obviously. If you see someone else doing drugs, yeah. It's a time to snitch. No, but I'm talking about like the smug know-it-alls, you know, like the ones that would see you like copying your homework during lunch break and they would tell the teacher that you did it. You know, that type of shit. I punched a kid who was bullying a mentally disabled friend. Well, yeah, there you go. Like, again, I'm trying to remember what happened in high school and what actually caused bullying. And this is never talked in public. Like you don't see this being discussed on television. But, like, a lot of the times, like, in hindsight, many of the situations were avoidable. Like the one you described, right? So, like, you punched a kid who was bullying a mental disabled friend. Well, had that kid not bullied the mental disabled friend, he wouldn't get punched. And now you can talk about, well, it's victim blaming, V. Like, you should. It's like, well, maybe it is, but, like, my advice would have saved him from getting the knuckle sandwich. Schools would be better with sanctioned consensual boxing fighting. You know what? As inappropriate as it would be, I kind of agree and I kind of disagree. The reason I agree is that this is actually allowed in the military, like with the Marines. They have like these games where it's not really a boxing fight, but they have like these. You go on a platform, and if you fall down, you lose. And you have like this rubber stick. I don't even know what's it called. And you have to like push your opponent. You got to fight with your opponent. And that lets out a lot of steam. Like throughout training, throughout boot camp, you make a lot of enemies, you have like a lot of grievances, and the ability to be with that person in a ring in a safe environment and do a physical activity is really, really good. So I would suggest, like, obviously not necessarily boxing, but wrestling or any type of sport that would allow like two kids to air their grievances. I think that would be great. Actually, I think that would lower bullying. So again, like a supervised environment, something that's not bloody, like just a sport where, wrestling, like the person that hits the mat loses, that type of shit. The problem though is that when you're growing up, like some kids grow up really fast and other kids grow up slowly. So like you can end up being in a ring with someone that's twice your size, despite the fact that they're the same age as you are, right? So oh, a pupil stick? Hold on, let me find so Marines. Like the entire thing is actually designated in order to relieve stress. Right? So like when you look at the military, they value efficiency. Well, at least they used to. Like they don't really care about feelings. They don't really care. No, it's like how do we get efficiency? How do we get people to work together, right? Because like you don't want your soldiers to be bullying each other while fighting the enemy. So they came up with this sport where you have like these things which I don't know what they're made of. They're made of rubber, I think. They're not very... Right, so you're wearing protective gear so you don't get injured, and you have like the ring, and if you step out of the ring, you lose. Obviously, it doesn't have to be like this, but like any type of sport. Well, actually, I think like American football is actually more dangerous than this, right? Like this is actually more safe than playing like professional football, where you have like people ramming themselves into each other, and yeah, you're using this, and you have to push your opponent out of the ring, and apparently, like, teams bond with each other a lot better after playing this. Beyblade got banned from gambling. Doesn't surprise me. Oh, it's foam and nylon? Okay. Yeah, both fighters need to consent, obviously. But it's not just letting the anger out. It's fun. Like teenagers, and I'm talking about boys here because like girls may not like it, but teenagers definitely enjoy contact sports. Like there's a reason why people enjoy going to football and get, even if they get injured, it's fun. It's a fun activity. It's not 100% safe. Like I have seen some football injuries that are like yikes, but it's fun, right? Like that's why it's there. It's... Well, when I was a teenager, I had a lot of energy. Like, you want to run around, you want to do stuff, so... This requires the etiquette of a culture that respects keeping it in the ring. Yeah, you make harsh punishments for anyone that takes it out of the ring. Because the whole thing, like, from what I understand with schools, is now they're trying to avoid any type of contact sport. And it's like, well, I don't think that's a good thing. Like, obviously, if someone doesn't want to take part in a contact sport, they shouldn't. Because as I mentioned before, like, puberty doesn't hit everyone at the same time. So, like, you may end up fighting Andrew the Giant. It's unfair. But like, if some people want to do contact sports, if they want to do wrestling, if they want to do American football, like why prevent them from doing that? Anyway, right. I'll end it here. Hopefully you guys had fun. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.